Well, hello and thanks for joining me. My name is JasonMorrell, and in this video, I'm going to show you 10 ways to use ChatGPT for Word documents to significantly cut down the time it takes you to prepare a document. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably caught the buzz around ChatGPT. Normally when you do research, you head straight to Google, you type in a search phrase, get a whole bunch of results back, and pick the best result. Sometimes you find exactly what you need on the first try. But often you need to check a number of sites, take snippets from each one, compile the information, sort it, and assemble it into something that makes sense. Now this can often take hours, sometimes even days. ChatGPT is a game changer. It's an AI tool, an artificial intelligence tool that can interpret natural language and generate custom written results. It does all the work for you. Let's take a look. So the place to start is a site called openai.com. If you've already signed up, you can come straight down to the footer, click the login link and sign in. If you haven't yet signed up, click the try link up in the header, enter your name and email, answer a couple of quick questions, confirm your email and you're set to go. When you first sign in, you'll land on this page here. Now ChatGPT is part of a suite of applications. We're going to focus mainly on the text completion today, but it also has an element which generates artificially some new images for you. If you're into computer code, there's another element for that as well. Tell it what you need, tell it what language you need it written in, and with a tweak here or there, it saves you hours of time. At the top there's a link called Playground. When I click on this, it's a place where you type instructions using natural language. Now once you've used ChatGPT and you're used to the way it works, this interface provides a lot more power, a lot more flexibility and options. For example, if you come across where it says model, it currently says Text DaVinci 003. Now this is the most capable model, which means when you type in an instruction, it goes the most in-depth to produce the results. It also takes the longest to complete. And we have like 4321, the bottom one here which says Text Ada 001. It's mainly used for the most simple of tasks. It doesn't go anywhere near as deep, but it's the quickest one of the four. Underneath the main box, it says, looking for ChatGPT? Try it now. Now when you click on this, it takes you to the main ChatGPT interface. And this is where I'm going to focus for this video. The boxes in the center give you some ideas. Now just take a note of some of the ways it's asking the instructions. So the first one says, explain this to me. This one says, got any creative ideas? So it's kind of a question. Now it's very clever in the way it interprets natural language. So you could say something like write or construct or create. You can tell it whether you want to write formal or informal. How long do you want it? How many words? All these kind of things. So let me go through a few examples using this box down the bottom. So the first one is, write a 250 word script in a chatty voice about mining activity in Queensland, Australia. So it's a script, so it's obviously meant for a video or a TV or a documentary, informal, kind of chatty, as if you're chatting to the viewer, as opposed to more formal, like an essay or a thesis. So let's just see what comes back here. Okay, let's just stop generating and take a quick look at the language that's already come back there. So because we said in a chatty voice, it starts with, hey there, let's talk about. If we use a more formal instruction like write a 250 word essay about mining activity in Queensland. So that's now done, and you can see it's much more formal, much more structured than the first example. There's no word count in ChatGPT, but what you can do is to copy the text that came back, go across to Word, paste it in, and check the word count down the bottom. So it's come back at 293 words. So it's gone a little bit over the 250 that we asked for, but that's not normally an issue unless you've been given a word limit. So back in ChatGPT, underneath every set of results is a regenerate response button. This tells it to go out and redo the work, and unlike a human, it doesn't complain. It does a fresh batch of research, and what it produces is completely different from the first version it gave you. You can also go into the box and write something like, make more concise. That instruction will work. It'll produce a different set of results with less words. Or you could write something like, rewrite in 200 words and see what comes back the second time. Let's quickly select this. Again, do the same thing. We'll take it back to Word and see what the word count is. So copy it from here, come across to Word and paste. And we can see it's now 176 words. So a bit closer to the mark. Now back in ChatGPT, you can add things like add headings. It'll go away and add appropriate headings. So there we go, and you can see how powerful that is. That's a massive time saver. Having things structured like that, you can take this as like a first draft and build on it. Now in the instruction box, you can also do things like undo, which would undo the last step, or we could say the last 2 steps. There's no set structure to the way you phrase this. It interprets natural language. It's very, very clever. Now I had to scroll down to see what it's just done there, but it says, sure, I have undone the last 2 steps. The essay is now without headings. In other words, it's back to the state it was 2 steps ago. Now the opposite to making it more concise is to get it to expand and make things longer. So you can use similar phrasing like rewrite in a bit more detail. And it will go ahead and it will increase it from the 250 words to something a bit longer. But obviously you haven't specified exactly how long here, so it just has to take a best guess. What you could also do is to say rewrite and expand to 500 words from the 250 that it currently is. So if you go ahead and do that, so it's gone back to standard headings. What I could have said is to rewrite and expand to 500 words with headings. But of course I can always add a second command that says add headings here, but obviously it has to rewrite it, so it takes twice as long if you do that. Once you've got some text that you're happy with, let's talk about things like titles and summaries and glossaries and things like that. So we can say, look, give me a title. So that's the first suggested title, an overview of mining activity in Queensland, Australia. Not bad. Let's click Regenerate Response, see what else it gives us. Mining in Queensland, Australia, a crucial contributor to the state's economy. Now what it could say is rewrite title without using one of these keywords, like for example, economy. And so it goes away and gives us a third suggestion. So it saves you all the brain power it would normally take to come up with a creative headline, something that grabs attention. Often on a long report, an executive summary is useful. So what you can do is to say something like, explain or summarize this essay in 125 words. So let's say summarize in 125 words. So it gives you all the main points in the main text in a brief summary. I think that's fantastic. So at this point, you've got your title, you've got your main text. It's useful to include a glossary or a summary of the terms. So you can use something like this. Create a summary of terms. Or you could even say, create a brief summary of terms. Or you might decide to go the other way and say, generate or create a detailed glossary. Something like that. Let's do that one. Let's see what comes back. I'm just going to stop it here, but you can see it's picked up the main terms, the main things that people may not know, and explain them simply, term by term. If you don't want to use the phrases brief or detailed, you can even just say glossary, and it will come back with a glossary for you, but of undetermined length. Now going back to the main article, you may be happy with the bulk of it, but there may be a paragraph or maybe a couple of paragraphs that are too complex, they're too complicated. And it's a well-known fact that the simpler you can make your language, the quicker and the better that people understand it. That's why Donald Trump, his speeches are so effective, because he uses grade 5 language, very, very simple phrases, small words, short words, and it has a deep impact on his listeners. So let's scroll back to the main article here, and let's just pick a short paragraph, something like this one. And in the box down here, we can say something like, explain this text to a 5-year-old, or it could be an 8-year-old or a grade 3 or a grade 5 or whatever. Then type a colon and then paste the text that we just copied from above. And what it does is it goes away and it dumbs it down. You can see it's explaining it in very, very simple language. In Queensland, which is a place in Australia, people dig deep into the ground to find different types of things that we can use to make things that we need. See how simple that is? And it doesn't really matter what age you are. That simple language means the message gets into your head much more effectively. Now, obviously, if you're an academic and you're writing a thesis or a doctorate, you probably don't want to use that sort of language. You want to use grade 15 type language, complicated words that the rest of the world doesn't understand. That's fine. That's your prerogative. You can get ChatGPT to do that as well. Now, just to wrap up this video, I thought I'd show you how to directly integrate ChatGPT into Microsoft Word. Now, it's not part of standard Microsoft Word at this point, although Microsoft initially contributed $1 billion to the investment of OpenAI back in 2019, and in 2023, they invested a further $10 billion into the OpenAI technology and actually own a good chunk of that company now. So it won't be long before ChatGPT is actually part of all the Microsoft Office programs. In fact, it's already part of Bing. The Bing search engine incorporates the ChatGPT functionality. So to be able to use it in Microsoft Word, you need add-ins. And add-ins are available on the Insert ribbon under Get Add-ins. And when the search box comes up, type GPT. The first two entries that come up are Ghostwriter and Spellbook. Ghostwriter lets you try it out for free for 2 responses, and after that you have to purchase a basic plan for $10, which allows you 2 paragraph responses for each time you enter something, or $25 for the premium version. That's a one-off cost where there's unlimited responses available. Likewise, Spellbook lets you trial it for a short period, but then it charges you $149 per month to use it. So clearly it's a lot more powerful than Ghostwriter. I've added both of these into my Word already, and you can tell that by going back to the Home ribbon, and on the right hand side, this is where Ghostwriter and Spellbook live. I'm going to give you a very quick demonstration of Ghostwriter, starting from when you purchase it and get things set up. So firstly, if we go to creativedatastudios.com, down towards the bottom, after a bit of blurb about what the product does, you have the choices, the Word Basic Edition or the Word Pro Edition. And these are your 2 price points. Very, very cheap for what it gives you. It's kind of the middleman between you and Word and then the ChatGPT. You can also purchase it for Outlook, if that's useful, and Excel, if that's useful, is coming soon. And at some point, they're going to bundle it all together and probably have an all-in-one price for everything. Click Validate. It then asks for your OpenAI API key. Now for this, you need to go back to the OpenAI website, this page here, and if you go to the top right corner, you can either click your initial or personal, and then in the sub-menu, View API Keys. If it's your first time in, there will be nothing in this section here, so you'll need to create new secret key here. Now, I just did one earlier for test purposes. I haven't used it, but I can't just delete it directly. I need to create a new secret key and then revoke the old one. So clicking on this just produces a brand new key. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard just by clicking this green and white icon. Then click OK. And because I've now got 2, I'm going to delete the first one. Then go back to Word and paste in the OpenAI key as the second bit of information. When we click Save, and it all looks good, we're ready to go. Now in a second I'm going to type a prompt in the box there, but beneath the box we have a couple of options. One that says Output Language. Now the default is English anyway, but we can choose any language you like from the list. And also what kind of writing style we'd like to see returned. So you've got things like academic or business writing style, creative writing, which is like storytelling. You might have journalistic or legal. So you can choose any of these you like as the style you want to see. Before I actually start typing a prompt in here, I'm going to clear this current text over here, just so you can see quite clearly what it's creating. And we might say something like, mining in Queensland, limit 200 words. Let's see what comes back. There we go. Here's all the stuff about mining in Queensland. Let's see how close to 200 words it gets by the end. Okay, looks like it's done. So let's just select all this text here, look at the word count, and it's 237. Not too bad. So sometimes it goes way over, sometimes a bit under, but you get roughly 200 words. And from here, obviously it's not designed to do all the work for you, but you can modify this and tailor it to your exact needs. But this is a great first draft. If it's slightly too long, you might go to the prompt box and say, rewrite, limit 100 words. Let's see what that does. Okay, so I added one paragraph down here. This is the bit it's just rewritten. And when we do a word count on that one, 103. You get the idea. If you've got the money to purchase Spellbook, that actually gives you a lot more power. And it has a lot more pre-configured options that are just ready to go off the bat. Or you can just use that for ideas as to what to ask for and how to manipulate it. So I just wanted to finish with that. And I hope that's been valuable, at least just to see what the potential of ChatGPT is. It is going to become the future, I'm pretty certain. Where people go to Google now, I think Google's going to be relegated to number 2 at some point because the artificial intelligence that's all wrapped up in ChatGPT and other AI programs, I think it's going to supersede what Google does. That's just my personal opinion. Anyway, that's it for this video. I appreciate you watching through to this point, and I'll see you for the next one.